Hi, my name is Bruno Haghebaert. With the support of the UN Office for DRR, I developed the Early Days of DRR initiative. In this video, I will give you the background on the program, explain its rationale and its objectives, and highlight the three key outputs of the initiative. There are many historical examples of societies successfully anticipating natural hazards, often going back several centuries. But it took until 1970 for the United Nations General Assembly to invite for the first time the Secretary General to submit recommendations on, I quote, pre-disaster planning and the application of technology and scientific research for the prevention and the control of natural hazards. As a result, in 2020, DRR at the global level celebrated its 50th anniversary. While the more recent history in DRR, starting in 2000, is overall well documented since the establishment of the UNISDR, there are serious gaps in the knowledge on the different actors and the initiatives taking place during the very first 3 decades of DRR. Therefore, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction has launched this initiative to document and more widely make available information on these early DRR experiences and engagements. There are 3 important reasons for that. There is a new generation of DRR policymakers, researchers and practitioners who are not always aware or have easy access to the early DRR work. Also, many of the primary witnesses and pioneers of this early period are aging. It is therefore key to document as soon as possible their personal observations and reflections. And lastly, much information and many publications developed during this period date back from the pre-internet era and are not available online. This entails the risk that over time, valuable information on this important period may get lost. This document highlights the early engagement of the United Nations in DRR for the period 1970 to 2000. It starts with the DRR prehistory and gives some interesting examples of early risk reduction practices, some going back several centuries. Then the 1970 to 1990 period is highlighted. The first United Nations General Assembly resolution, the establishment of the United Nations Disaster Relief Office, UNDRR, and the role of Frank Press as the founding father of the UNDRR. Next, the International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction, UNDRR, from 1990 to 2000 is explained. Its goals and objectives are highlighted, the institutional setup is explained, and the UNDRR public information strategy. Also, key UNDRR events such as the DRR Days and campaigns, the Sasakawa Award and the demonstration projects are presented. Next, also global conferences and meetings such as the Yokohama Conference and the Global Forum, Closing Forum in July 1999 in Geneva are explained. The International Strategy of Disaster Risk Reduction as a successor arrangement to the UNDRR concludes this publication. In annex, the publication also gives an overview of the engagement by other United Nations agencies engaged in DRR during those early days. A second component are the timelines, which will take you through DRR history and focus on the early DRR work, mainly the period 1960 to 2000, carried out by a multitude of actors. The United Nations agencies and the World Bank, academic centers, research and training institutes, civil society organizations and NGOs, national governmental actors and regional partnerships. For each type, the most relevant organizations are listed and details are given on their main achievements. Finally, a timeline with 50 classic and most influential DRR publications and academic articles is shown. A third component are the DRR pioneer interviews. 25 DRR pioneers, including several Sasakawa Award winners, the UNDRR director, key academics and practitioners from the Global North and Global South have been interviewed, and their interviews are hosted on a specific UNDRR YouTube channel. A few extracts of these interviews are shown next.
I think the problem with disaster risk reduction still today is hugely that it's seen as a specific zone, a specific area to be worked on in isolation from everything else.
The landscape has changed. So while at the same time, the NGOs are more into understanding or cooperating, the government also become more accommodating. And the UN facilitated that also, that kind of process, which is now it is embedded in the Sendai document, you know, the all-inclusive, etc. And so I think we're moving forward.
You know, poor communities are not talking about whether it's DRR or climate change or development. It doesn't really matter. They're dealing with multiple risks that interact and compound each other on a daily basis, not just from, you know, these things, but also from, you know, conditions of fragility, conflict, violence. There's so much that, you know, we can't neatly apply our institutional streams and just deal with one particular type of risk.